Welcome to this explainer. Today we're tackling what is pretty much the ultimate battle in algebra, solving multi-step equations. You know, if you've ever stared down a massive, complex math problem and just felt completely overwhelmed, well, you are definitely not alone. But today, we're laying out a tactical battle plan that's going to change the game entirely. Let's get right into it.
Up until now, you might be totally used to those simple one-step problems. But in this unit, we're moving away from the basics. We're stepping up to those intimidating long strings of numbers and variables loaded with parentheses. I mean, just look at a problem like 3 times the quantity x minus 2 plus 4 equals 16. At first glance, it just looks like a total mess.
So the big question is, how do we dismantle an equation like this without making silly mistakes? Now, it looks complex, I know, but here's the secret. You already possess all the mental tools you need to break this down. It's really not about learning new math. It's just about organizing what you already know into a reliable, foolproof toolkit.
Here is our mission briefing for this explainer. We've got 4 phases. First, the real battle in algebra. Second, our isolation and simplification strategy. Third, practical training on equations. And fourth, common traps to be aware of.
All right, phase 1, the real battle in algebra.
To win this battle, you really don't need magic. We're just gathering the weapons you've already mastered from previous lessons and deploying them all together. What are they? The distributive property to blow open parentheses, combining like terms to magnetically pull similar pieces together, and simple inverse operations to lock down your target variable. That's literally it. That is your entire arsenal.
Moving right along to phase 2, our isolation and simplification strategy.
What's really fascinating here is how the absolute chaos of algebra turns into a simple, repeatable checklist. This 4-step isolation and simplification strategy is your core tactical battle plan. Step 1, clear those parentheses using the distributive property. If you see brackets, eliminate them immediately. Step 2, combine like terms. Look at the left side, then the right side, and clean them up separately. Step 3, move variables to one side. If your unknown x is hanging out on both sides of the equal sign, use addition or subtraction to get them all grouped together. And finally, step 4, isolate the variable completely using your inverse operations. If you follow these 4 steps in order, you can seamlessly dismantle literally any multi-step equation.
Okay, phase 3, practical training on equations. It's time to hit the practical training ground and run through some tactical simulations. For our first example, we're looking at equations that require combining like terms right out of the gate. We're facing a scenario where variables of the exact same kind, say a 3x and a positive 2x, are just scattered on the left side of the equation. This is a classic scenario where step 2 of our plan comes into play immediately, simply because there aren't any parentheses to clear.
So, strictly following our roadmap, we massively simplify the battlefield by combining those x terms first. 3x plus 2x becomes a much friendlier 5x. Bam! Once the board is simplified, we move on to isolation. First, we subtract the constant from both sides to get the variable term all by itself. Then, finally, we divide both sides by the coefficient, the number literally attached to the x, to completely isolate the variable. See how that works? Step by step, the complexity just melts away.
Let's move to our next simulation. Example 2 focuses on equations containing the distributive property. This introduces an outside number and a set of parentheses into the mix. Now, this is exactly where a lot of students freeze up. But hey, remember step 1 of our battle plan.
The absolutely crucial point here is that step 1 is always deploying the distributive property to blow up those parentheses. If you have a 2 outside the parentheses, you multiply it by every single term inside. Once those parentheses are gone, guess what? The equation looks exactly like a basic 2-step problem. From there, you just strip away the constant by subtracting it from both sides and then eliminate the coefficient by dividing. Easy as that.
All right, it's time for the boss battle. Example 3, the comprehensive equation. This one features distribution, like terms, and full isolation. This final training simulation literally throws everything at you at once. If you can handle this, honestly, you can handle anything this unit throws at you.
And this example brilliantly illustrates just how robust our strategy really is. Even on the longest, most intimidating equations, you don't panic, you just follow the checklist. First, you distribute the 4 into the parentheses to clear them out. Then, you look at the terms on the same side and combine them, like grouping a -4 and a +3. Suddenly, this massive equation shrinks down into a tiny, super manageable problem.
You isolate your constant by adding 1 to both sides, and finally isolate your target variable by dividing by 4. Just like that, you've conquered a comprehensive multi-step equation.
Which brings us to our final phase, Phase 4, Common Traps to be Aware of.
Now that our training is complete, we've got to navigate the minefields. Because knowing how to solve the equation is only half the battle. Knowing where you might trip up is the other half. The first massive trap students fall into is using the wrong order of inverse operations. So many people try to divide the whole equation by the coefficient before they even deal with the constants. Trying to divide before you add or subtract? It totally ruins the entire equation and leaves you with a tangled mess. The correct, clean approach is always eliminating the addition and subtraction first.
To completely avoid this trap, you've got to memorize this golden rule. Solving an equation is literally just putting on your shoes and socks in reverse. Think about it. When you get dressed, you put on your socks, then your shoes. But when you take them off, you have to work in reverse. Shoes first, then socks. In math, this means doing reverse PEMDAS. You tackle the addition and subtraction to strip away the outside layers first, well before you ever touch the multiplication and division attached directly to the variable.
The second major minefield is negative distribution. Oh man, this is a classic grade killer. When there's a negative number outside the parentheses, students often remember to multiply the first term perfectly, but they completely forget to flip the sign of the second term inside. If you distribute a -2 into an x minus 4, that second term becomes a positive 8, not a negative 8. It changes everything. So always double check your signs after you blow up those parentheses.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this thought. You now have the exact roadmap, the tactical steps, and a map of the biggest minefields. So, the next time you face a long, intimidating equation on an exam, especially one with parentheses and a sneaky negative sign, will you fall into those hidden traps, or will you confidently deploy your tactical battle plan and isolate that variable? I think you know exactly what to do. Thanks for joining me, and happy solving.